What's up, fight fans? This is Kurt DeVille with Counterpunch Boxing News. And this live stream here is dedicated to Manny Pac-Man Pacquiao. So we're going to talk about all the accomplishments that Manny has. We're going to go and listen to his retirement speech, which I think was great. I think it was it was rather informative, So let's talk about Manny Pacquiao for a minute. Everybody that's on, hit that like button. It lets other people know that I'm live, so we can come on and join this live stream. Skrilla50, what's up, brother? Counterpunch to you. Skrilla50 in the building. I'm gonna let enough people come on because I know I just started the live stream or whatnot. So I'm gonna give people time before I start the the actual speech of Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao, man, has been fighting for 26 years, man. That's crazy, And he got with Freddie Roach and stuff like that. He used to sell rice for a living. In his earlier years, Manny Pacquiao, was from a poor Filipino family, but of course, he took care of his family. It's a lot of loyalty involved with Manny Pacquiao because Boo Boy Fernandez was a guy that he befriended years ago. He's not a guy that came around when Manny started making money. He was a guy that was already there. So keep that in mind on what kind of character you're dealing with when you're talking about Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao had, a lot of wild times too. We're going to talk about it all, man. So let's get enough people in here. Let's hit that like button, and we will soon start this live stream off right. But man, the first time I seen Manny Pacquiao, because I can speak through my experiences, the first time I saw him was when he fought Ledwapa. Okay, he was a South African fighter, which was a very, very decorated fighter himself. We learned about Ledwapa from South Africa. Okay, that's when one of another big upset, which a lot of people don't realize, when Lennox Lewis was knocked out by Hasim Rahman. Okay, Hasim Rahman was was an underdog to Lennox Lewis and agreed to fight Lennox Lewis in Johannesburg, Africa. Okay, South Africa, and Lennox Lewis, of course, himself was a part of, I think it was Ocean's 11 or Ocean's 12. And and Vladimir Klitschko was the guy that he was fighting because he was playing himself, obviously, and he was going to fight Vladimir. And and he spent a lot of time on that set, and I think that set made him, how do you say, soft, unprepared. Okay, Manny Pacquiao is the most decorated champion of all time, being a champion in 8 different weight classes. Manny was cheated in the first Bradley fight and the Horn fight. Skrilla50, appreciate it. Thank you for those counter punches. He is one of the most decorated. I will say that. I can't argue with that. And we'll talk about the Bradleys and the Hearns. I'm glad you said that. Let me get this out of the way. Ledwapa, okay. Ledwapa was a damn good fighter. He had a smooth style. Dude, he was short, he was slick, and he just passed this year, actually, Ledwapa. But Ledwapa is a guy that really didn't get a lot of accolades because Ledwapa was really little known in the States. Okay, yeah, Lelo Ledwapa, and he, his nickname was Hands of Stone, and his he got beat once by a guy named Joseph Ramaswe. Ramaswe. Okay, Joseph Ramaswe. And he was 10-0 when he was defeated. But he won 23 straight. Before stepping in there with Manny Pacquiao. And here's the thing, Manny Pacquiao at the time was somewhat of an Andy Ruiz because he was definitely a replacement for another fighter. Okay, he wasn't the guy that he was chosen to fight. And this is where Le Guapa premiered on HBO because he signed a contract to fight on HBO. Drummond for life. Big up Kurt. Counterpunch to you, brother. F.A. Solak. Prime Canelo versus a Prime Pacquiao. Who wins? Well, that's kind of hard to say, F.A., because a Prime Canelo, I mean, when has Canelo, like, I've never seen him look bad. I've seen him in difficult fights, but it's hard to say, well, was he in his prime now? Does he get better now? Or is the competition not as good now? You know, you don't have the Floyd Mayweathers and the Erislandy Laras to really even make that. Let's put it this way. On the guys that he fought, like, let's say, who do you think would win out of Danny Jacobs, which was a pretty interesting fight for Canelo, and Erislandy Lara? You know, that's the type that's the only way that we have to go on to see if his challenges or his fighters that he's recently beat that seemingly easy, how would they do against his earlier fighters, his challenges earlier? You know, could Floyd beat all those guys? You know, try a Floyd Triple G. But then again, Triple G deserved the first win, I think. So that's a very good question. Whereas Pacquiao was in another weight class. He's a smaller guy. So I don't know. I don't know how to answer that question. I can tell you more than likely it would be Canelo, but Manny is so fast in his prime that he would give Canelo all types of problems because Canelo would be looking for counters that he would probably land some of the time. Now, the thing is, could he hurt Pacquiao with his punching power? That would be a difficult fight for Manny and for Canelo because, you know, Manny could always get countered like he did with Juan Manuel Marquez. You know what I'm saying? So that's something you need to keep in mind, especially someone bigger, because Canelo was always a bigger dude anyway. Canelo versus Pacquiao, I think, is one that everybody wanted. It was the cherry on the cake. It could have been. He was just too big. Canelo started at 154. And if did he start at 154? I think so. But he couldn't even make 154. It took him a while, and then the stupid thing about that, Canelo was like a older or a younger version of Pac-Man. Why? Because Canelo started making his own weight, catchweights. That's what Manny Pacquiao was known for. He did it with Oscar De La Hoya. He did it with Miguel Cotto. He did it with a lot of people, okay, when it came to fighting Manny Pacquiao, either at 145, 146, those type weights. And then Canelo, what he did was he had a catch weight, but it was for the opposite reason. Canelo had a catch weight because he was too big and he didn't necessarily want to go to middleweight. And I think the reason for that was he could fight Cotto because Cotto really wasn't a middleweight. But someone like Triple G was like the most feared guy. He was the boogeyman of the division. He was the guy that Billy Joe Saunders told Chris Eubank, hey, he would beat us both in the same night. Imagine Billy Joe, the shit talker, the undefeated fighter at the time. He thought in his mind that Golovkin was that treacherous that he didn't even think he could beat him. In fact, he would beat him and his rival. Think about what I'm saying. So I know that people had respect for Golovkin, and Canelo fought Golovkin at a later age in his career. That's the problem with Golovkin. Golovkin was still good. He was still good enough to pull off a win, in my opinion. But at the end of the day, he was too. I think they waited him out. They did the promotions or the promotional special. You know, a lot of promoters will see a seemingly indestructible guy with this aura of invincibility, and what they'll do, if the fighter, they know that they can make money with a fighter that they have that's a premier fighter like Canelo was, and what they'll do, they'll just wait. You know, like, think about it. Why do you think, oh, okay, Uh, let Danny Jacobs fight first. Then we'll fight Canelo, right? And Danny Jacobs was a step up, definitely. See, when Golovkin took out David Lemieux, that was just like pretty much okay. Now he didn't want to get caught with a flush David Lemieux shot though. You know what I mean? He fought him like smart like, right? But but Canelo though, I think they waited. Oh, I think they waited long enough, and I think they intentionally waited a whole year for that rematch. That Canelo clenbuterol shit might have been a cover up for all we knew. He might have did that on purpose just to get the 6 months waiting time. You know, because Oscar De La Hoya, no doubt about it, he really protected Canelo Alvarez for a while. Now, Skrilla 50. Let's talk about the Jeff Horn fight and the Timothy Bradley fight. Now, you had both of those guys, Timothy Bradley and Jeff Horn. What do they have in common? They were undefeated fighters. We know Jeff Horn, it was out of his backyard. He fought in Australia for a shitload of money. Timothy Bradley, I think Timothy Bradley, I think he beat Bradley the first time. But see what made it interesting with Bradley, though, his story split because that same year that that decision came down for Bradley over Pacquiao, Pacquiao, later that year in December on the 8th of 2012 was knocked out. Okay, so that story from that. Meanwhile, Timothy Bradley himself was getting terrorized, threatened, death threats. Like, dude, death threats? You know what I mean? And it just shows you how fans will go. If you ever seen a movie that explains a crazy ass fan, you have to watch the movie The Fan with Wesley Snipes and Robert De Niro. Really good movie, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about crazy, fanatical people that get fanatical about sports stars, okay? And a lot of these fanatical people were going after Timothy Bradley. Well, when Pacquiao got knocked out, Bradley took a fight with a little-known Ruslan Provandakov, and he got a concussion. That was one of the toughest fights that I ever seen him in, and it was one of the best fights that I remember watching. Okay, that made me gain respect for Timothy Bradley. Now he had the choice of fighting Bradley again, Pacquiao, but he was like, "Well, what's the use? I think I'd already beat him. I've already got the decision from the people. I am the people's champ. I don't fight Marquez. We have unfinished business, I think." Right. So Chris Serrano, what's up, brother? Counterpunch to you off the canvas boxing. What's up, brother? Counterpunch. Caleb Plant is the truth. He going to eat fat drug cheat. Brennan Smith coming in with a prediction. Counterpunch. Who is better boxer, Usyk or Erislandy Lara? Effie. That's a hard question because they're both southpaws. They're both slick as shit. I can tell you this, Effie. I'll tell you who's the most exciting. Usyk. No doubt about it. I think Erislandy in his prime is more accurate. But him being an amateur that long, him being stuck in a country that doesn't support professional boxing, they get an idea of this amateur mindset, this tunnel vision like, hey, hit, not get hit, fuck everything else. But what happens with these Cuban fighters, like Lara, like Rigondeaux, they've beat all of these pros back in the amateurs. And you got to think of a mindset of a person that was conquered and dominated by communism. Well, in their mind, they're like, dude, I've beat that guy already. Like, let me give you an example. Yordenis Ugas already beat Terrence Crawford. Now, so imagine if Yordenis Ugas is in Cuba right now in a small fucking rundown apartment, right? With some rum right? And he's looking at television and he's seeing Terrence Crawford with a big giant house, 5 kids, nice cars and shit like that, he could say, you know what, I already beat him, and that's my moral victory. But I can't do shit because I'm stuck in this country that doesn't support professional boxing, which is the stupidest shit ever, right? Um, but is Erislandy Lara better? I don't think he's. I think he's more accurate with his left hand, but then again, it gets overshadowed by the ring generalship, the the action, the mindset of Usyk. See, Usyk is not going to be content with landing shots and then still making the fight. He is still going to be on you. He will still be thinking Erislandy Lara is just going to do enough and get the hell out of Dodge. And then he won't do enough to just really win. He'll just do enough not to lose. But in Lara's prime, he's a very, very difficult guy to fight. He had 75-inch reach. Okay, some people might say 74. Some people might tell you 75. The dude had fucking Chango arms, okay? Monkey arms. So he can hit you and catch you. And then, like, by the time you try to counter, he's so far back from you. He could either move, duck, slip, or counter himself. You know what I mean? So he already has you. He has the counter. That's what makes guys like Luis Ortiz dangerous. Luis Ortiz, older Cuban fighter with a left, but he's always on the counter. Okay. But what makes Luis Ortiz dangerous and more marketable is he goes in for the attack. He just doesn't wait for the counter. So does Usyk. Usyk will go in and attack you. Look at the 12th round in him and Joshua. Okay, so that's the difference between the two. So if you could say, well, I'll argue, is Erislandy Lara better than Usyk? I mean, he might be a better boxer, but Usyk's a damn sure a better fighter on top of being an excellent boxer. So I would rather have more of the two than just really having one. He's just a good boxer. Because Lara won't fight with you. He would just block your shots. And then, hey, yeah, and then counter you. He might outland you, might outscore you, but at the end of the day, the crowd won't like that, and then they'll start booing. That'll start affecting the mindset and the ears of the judges. That's how Erislandy Lara ends up in the shit that he was in. I don't even know if he's still fighting. I mean, he'll probably fight a couple more times for the cash, but it is what it is. I had Manny beating Bradley 10 rounds to 2. I had him 8 rounds to 4 in the first fight. Isaac Myers. What's good, Kurt? Loving the content, my brother. Love from Cali. Appreciate you, Isaac, man. Counterpunch to you. Manny versus Mayweather 2. No, I think that's a done deal. And I like Floyd. I like Floyd, but Floyd pulled some slick shit with Manny. And it was real malicious. And I'll explain that here in a minute. James Wesh, appreciate the super chat sticker, bro. Counterpunch to you. Rob Dog, Ortiz turned down millions for an AJ fight. Yeah, he did. His team did. Rob Dog. His team did. And he didn't claim to be in control of his team. But if you know you weren't in control, you know you should understand why or figure out why you weren't in control. Okay? Because you should have been known. You should have been notified that this offer was on the table. Okay? That's that. And he should have fired him. And I'm disappointed in Luis Ortiz for not firing him. He should have at least got with Herman Calcedo and told him, like, look, I don't like how Jay Jimenez, I don't like how he did me. You know, look, see, here's the thing. Here's something I want to counterpunch about Jay Jimenez for a second. He told Eddie Hearn that they have a deal with Deontay Wilder to fight him twice, which they got. However, that was later in the year. That had nothing to reflect him fighting AJ. Counterpunch. See, he had to fight someone then. He didn't fight Deontay Wilder then. So why couldn't he go and fight AJ, he might have beat AJ and probably would have fought Deontay Wilder for the undisputed. You know what I mean? So you can't tell me that Jay, the only reason he turned the AJ fight down, or his team did, was because they were offered a Deontay Wilder rematch. That's bullshit, because Deontay Wilder had already a mandatory, people, with Dominic Brazil. Because you got to think about that. Okay? So for Jay and everybody to say, oh, well, hey, man, he turned that down because of the rematch with Deontay Wilder. That didn't happen till later on in the freaking year. Like what? October? November? Come on, man. You got to think about what's happening here. You know, they screwed him over. But he screwed himself over. Why? Because he didn't fire him. He should have fired all of them. This dude's Mayweather impressions kill me. Look, Quincy, let's talk about Mayweather for a minute, right? First of all, shout out to Merle Dixon, yo, Kurt DeVille. What up, family? How you doing? Drumming for life. Was there any talk of Prince Ahmed Manny? Nah, we'll get to that too. But before I forget, speaking of Mayweather, you know, do you guys understand the reason why Manny Pacquiao joined PBC, right? Or Showtime? Or Al Heyman, better to say, because Al Heyman is in cahoots with both of those networks, PBC, Fox, and Showtime. But do you guys remember what and why that took place, right? Okay. It's because Floyd and Manny were in Tokyo in 2000. It was in 2018, late 18, and it was a New Year's party. Right? And Floyd had Manny in his entourage, and Floyd in his, thinking that they're going to have a super fight and a part 2 rematch. That's what happened. We're going to have Manny Pacquiao, Floyd Mayweather 2 coming 2019. Lean and me and the Manny machine. We're going to get it in. TMT, TBE, the money team. We're going to do everything that we know what to do. We're going to have it done. Rematch. You know, and Manny all smiling, yeah, we get the rematch, right? And that's what happened. That's exactly what happened. And then when Manny signed, what did Floyd do? He flipped him. He did what 50. Floyd, he kind of flip-flop. You know, Floyd just flip-flop. He don't know what he want to do from day to day, you know. He flip-flops that, and then he said, I don't want to fight Manny Pacquiao. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm not doing it. As soon as he signed that shit, because he had Manny thinking, fight someone first, like Adrian. Remember Adrian Broner? He fought Adrian Broner, and then after that, he's supposed to fight Big Brother. Little brother beat him, then fight Big Brother. Kind of like what Marcos Maidana did, guys. Come on. Okay? Tricked his ass. Tricked him. You know? Manny, I'm ready to fight Floyd. What is this? You know, and that's when Al Heyman. Manny. Forget about Floyd. We're going to get you somebody that wanted Floyd that Floyd couldn't get. We're going to give you a Thurman. I want Floyd Mayweather. Fuck Floyd. Floyd, he ain't fight no more. He felt like a betrayed dickhead, didn't he? Because he was like, okay, well, what happened with this party in Tokyo? I was lied to by Floyd. Because Floyd wanted Floyd wanted to make money off of Manny. He didn't want to fight Manny. He wanted to make money off of Manny. He wanted to be Manny's boss. I'm Manny's boss. Me and Al Heyman, we tell Manny what to do. We tell Manny who to fight. Yeah, everybody except you. You know, he got played. Floyd did his ass with what we call down here the Big Ten fake out. Shout out to Adrian Carter. Travel gods. That's what we call in the ex-Verizon crew. They know who they are. Shamard Russian, Counterpunched to you. Those cats. The Big Ten fake out. where Floyd made him think that he was going to have this big super fight with Floyd. Floyd knew damn well he wasn't going to fight no more. He ain't fought since. He ain't fought since 15. So he got played. Yeah, he got played. Big time. Mm-hmm. You see what he did to Matisse? He retired. Matisse came out of retirement, and Manny Pacquiao retired Matisse again. La Máquina, the machine, right? He retired the machine. Crazy. That's what happened. And that was dirty of Floyd, because Floyd could have gave that fight. I mean, and here's the thing. Floyd figured it out. Why would I fight Manny, possibly get beat, because Manny is, and you have to look at Manny and Floyd. Floyd might say, I did it better. I did it better the first time. I did it the first time. Did you do it longer, though? You know, he may, in fact, be Barry Sanders of the boxing league, because Barry Sanders was dynamic compared to someone like Emmitt Smith, but Emmitt Smith did it longer. Now, fair play to Barry Sanders. We don't know how long he could have fought or played effectively versus Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith just did it for the accolades, for the running yards, the rushing yards, right? Well, Floyd finished a long time ago. He retired 6 years ago. They might add the Conor McGregor fight in 17. Okay, that's still 4 years ago, right? But I mean, he was a guy that never been in the professional fight with a boxer, you know, being the UFC guy. You know what I mean? But if McGregor would have beat Floyd, he would have had a loss. So, you know what I mean? But the last true boxer he fought was Andre Berto. So, you know what I mean? You guys make that what you will. Tenshin Natsukawa was not a boxer. I'm talking about true boxers. And we seen how that went. Yeah, Pacquiao was gullible. Well, we knew Pacquiao was gullible, though, since Bob Arum. You know what I mean? Bob Arum, I'm sick with Manny. I will not give him $20 million to fight Terrence Crawford. $20 million is a lucky number for a lot of people. That's the same amount of money that Floyd wanted to fight Oscar De La Hoya. And he didn't get it because Bob was too cheap. Bob didn't believe in the fighter like the fighter believed in himself, and Floyd believed in himself. So guess what Floyd did? He bought out his contract, and he still ended up fighting Oscar De La Hoya for how much money? $20 million. $20 million was the same amount of money that Manny Pacquiao asked for to fight Terrence Crawford. He didn't get it. But he finally left. But, like, look how long it took him to leave. He could have been fighting a lot of guys, man, in them times. Because if you looked at, let's go back. Let's go back to years 14 and 15. Okay. The only fights we see Manny fight were like fights like Bradley. He fought Bradley 3 times. He fought Juan Manuel Marquez 4 times. That's 7 fights right there. All with top rank. All with top rank. And you have to ask yourself, you're like, well, how many other people he could have fought? You know, Devin Alexander. You had Amir Khan on a PBC or Al Heyman. He ended up fighting Thurman and Broner. You know, he ended up fighting Matisse. He, you know, pretty soon he might have got a Danny Garcia fight, maybe. But, you know, Danny turns down any fucking tough challenge, really. And he hasn't beat anybody up there. So Danny's just a cool sledgehammer. He's just a good hooker, but I mean, he's a decent fighter, tough fighter, but you know, he's really nobody to mention right now because he's been beaten by everyone. You know, 0-3 is bad. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. 0-3 is. Okay. But back to Manny. Manny eventually left, which I'm glad he left. He was with Freddie Roach for the longest. I think Freddie Roach taught him more as a professional than anybody else. Because if you guys remember Manny was just had a very heavy left hand. Okay. His left hand was just, that was the money shot. That jab, jab up the pipe, boom. Or that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But he would have to hit you with that left first. And then he would eat you up with those combinations. But it was with Freddie Roach, he was able to develop that right hook, and that right hook was a mother sucker, and it hurt many fighters. Okay. I am so happy that Manny Pacquiao retired. Jonathan Jerome, counterpunch to you. I'm happy too. In fact, I wanted Manny Pacquiao to retire in 2017. You back when what's his name, Keith Thurman, one time wanted him badly. He was like, I want to put hands on Manny Pacquiao. And then see those type of things and those call outs like that. Um, and man, that's that Thurman, you better not duck me, thun Thurman. That was the kind of guy I think would have gave a lot of people problems if it wasn't for injuries and other crap like that. And I guess doing too much too fast. You know what I mean? Because it's like after he fought Danny Garcia, it was like, hey, I'm out. Right? Um, but yeah, I'm glad he retired. Kim, Ambrosis, are you going to put a new battery in that fire alarm? Yeah, I will. I just forget about it. I don't hear it no more. You guys hear it, and the only reason I'm attention because I read the comments. So I will put one in. I think it's a C battery. I took one out of another room. So has Manny officially retired then? Rob Dog, yes. He's going to run for the presidency in the Philippines. It's a great thing. I think he should have done that before, though. I think he should have dropped out. I think in 2019, he should have ended with a win after beating an undefeated guy, which he's beat a lot of undefeated people. He beat Timothy Bradley, undefeated. Keith Thurman, undefeated. Jesse Vargas, undefeated. Who else did he beat undefeated? A lot of people, though. He took a lot of people's. What's his name? What's the pretty boy's name? Chris. That he trains. I forget his name now, but he took his O. He was 19-0 when he came back from that knockout. Bobby Collins, salute. Who you got? Debo versus Goldmouth from Life. I got Debo. I'm never gonna go against Debo. um, Ronnie Fraud. Kurt, my brother, so good to see you. Enjoyed you questioning the AJ fight. Question: why aren't people making as big a deal of AJ loss versus the Ruiz fight? Because they seen Anthony get beat more rounds, and he didn't have to get hurt to do it. This wasn't something that was like instant. This is something that was gradual. See, we seen Usyk do that round after round instead of like Ruiz, boom, catching him with that left hook and just turning the whole fight around for him. Okay, so D Hodges, what's up, Counterpunch in the chat? LDB, salute, bro. Counterpunch to you. D Hodges is in the building. Manny was robbed by Floyd of a mega fight. Well, he was robbed by Floyd in a second mega fight. They already had that fight, man. Dude, that fight in 2015, it was like the biggest fight that grossed ever. Was it the best? No. But normally these big fights are not the best. Pac made me proud, and the only man I've ever seen who stopped hitting Margarito, and I wanted to see Manny get laid out, busted up. I begged them not to let Spence near him. Ugas has less power. Well, you know what, Danny? The truth of the matter is it doesn't matter anyway. About Spence, about Ugas. I'm glad, and look, I'm glad Spence didn't fight Manny because they looked at that as passing the torch to Manny Pacquiao with all those damn fights, all those damn wars, and then you're going to give it to an undefeated welterweight. You're going to give him the opportunity where him himself should have been worried more about better fights, more even fights. Everybody wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao. Errol Spence wanted to fight Manny Pacquiao, and he fucked around and got it, so we thought. Okay? See, Manny fighting Terrence Crawford would have made more sense because Manny and Crawford had history. Crawford and Manny should have fought. If it wasn't for Bob Arum, that fight should have been made. But it wasn't meant for any of those guys to fight Manny because I guess those guys have to make their own legacy their own way instead of making it off the back of Manny Pacquiao. That's the difference. A lot of these guys want to fight that one person instead of doing a Dillian White type way, fighting the best and then working yourself up. They don't want to do that shit anymore. They want to, hey, let me wait out, fight a bunch of nobody fighters, nobody, bum, then fight for that one shot, and then, oh, I'm the best fighter around. Well, look who you fought. You haven't fought anyone. So that's the problem. He made me proud too, Danny, though. Danny Lothar. He made me proud of Margarito. I wanted Margarito to taste the pain. He got ate alive. It looked like somebody tried to eat his face with a dull spoon. And I absolutely loved it. Margarito. And then see, here's the thing. People think I overlook cheaters. Cheaters, look, that's that special type of cheating that you need to be in jail for. Manny Pacquiao did to that man what that man tried to do to Cotto. Manny Pacquiao retired Antonio Margarito. Manny Pacquiao did that. And I'm glad for him. It was so poetic. The justice was poetic, wasn't it? Margarito knew he cheated. That trainer Capatillo know he helped Margarito cheat because he's the one that put the shit in there. They both would have went to jail. And I agree with Floyd Mayweather. If it would have been me, they don't want to throw me. They want to throw me in jail. But he just gets a year off and a slap on the wrist. But it would be me. I would never have to fight again. They would never let me fight again. That's what I'm talking about. That's Floyd. And I agreed with him because I'm like, no. Because some of these guys look at the Oscar Valdez shit. That you got to do the same thing across the board. So you can't fault him for not thinking that way because we see it in boxing just recently. Okay? But yeah, Danny, I love when Manny did that. King Mike Hall, good bout time. Good bout time, yeah. Yeah, it is, Manny should have retired back in 17. But, he showed how good he still was in 19. So, hey, you got to take your hat off to him. What did you think of the Ugas fight? I think Ugas was prepared to fight anybody. I think Ugas has been an underrated fighter for the longest. I think because Ugas is Cuban, Ugas has no backing. He has no country. You know what his country is? A state. It's called Florida. Okay? That's the only thing close enough to Cuba. Miami. Okay? So he did not, and he doesn't speak English. He speaks Spanish, and if you don't know Spanish, you're not going to understand what a guy's talking about that's looking like fucking Chris Eubank Sr., okay? You're not going to understand him. So how marketable can that guy be? So that's another flaw. But, it's like this. Look, listen. Ugas did his thing. Ugas deserved the fight. Ugas deserved the win. Manny did what he could do. But Ugas was more prepared. And then Manny, I think he was too old to make those legs move like he's used to. And I think it's a great idea that he retired. But see, it's having wisdom is knowing when to retire. If Manny Pacquiao walks away after 26 years, people, of boxing, and he doesn't have any ill effects like Mickey Ward and James Toney and Evander Holyfield, and a lot of these fighters that have now, Okay? They have these problems now. If he can walk away with those problems or minimal problems, he won. He has 5 beautiful kids, a beautiful wife. Jinky can get it, right? He's still young. He's only 42. He'll be 43 soon. But he's out of the sport of boxing. And he just didn't get beat down. He got beat, but he didn't get beat down. They didn't beat him down like Roy Jones and Evander Holyfield and Roberto Duran. All these guys fought way too long. And it was just embarrassing to a point. Look how Manny did Mosley. Look how he did Mosley. Mosley was running. He was on his back foot for 4 rounds. He didn't want no more than Pac-Man. Okay, you don't want to be that guy. You don't want people to look at Manny and be like, dude. And the first thing people will say, dude, he's losing he's messing up his legacy. He ain't messed up his legacy this way. You know what I mean? It ain't. People are gonna love Manny for who he is and what he did, not for what he turned into because he fought too long. Counterpunch. I wanted Pac to retire after the Mayweather loss would have been great. No. King Mike Hall, he showed who he was after that loss, that he still had it, that he still was Manny Pacquiao, and he could still whoop these young dudes. And that's exactly what he did. He whooped a lot of young dudes. He whooped Jesse Vargas, which was undefeated. He went and whooped Lucas Matisse. He went and got robbed against Jeff Horn because then I think that had something to do with Top Rank. They were trying to promote Jeff Horn, and Jeff Horn got knocked out by Terrence Crawford. So Terrence Crawford did his dirty work, yeah, but he was robbed nonetheless. It wasn't his best performance, but even his worst performance was better than Jeff Horn's best performance because that was his best performance, and a lot of people still know he lost against Manny. He just got the decision. So even Manny, looking shitty as he did, still did enough to win. That's what I'm trying to say, right? So that's another one. And look, understand, this is post Mayweather. He ain't lost since then, except for the Ugas fight. 1 robbery, 1 loss. Ugas, Horn, Mayweather. That has been 6 years. So in 6 years, you have 3 losses. Well, actually, one robbery and 2 losses. Right? So I don't think that people give Manny enough respect. And guess whose respect did he gained? Floyd's. Do you guys understand before Floyd fought Manny Pacquiao, did you see him at any Manny Pacquiao fight? He'll tell you, I never been in the same building with him. To be honest, I never met the dude. So he didn't come to his fights, probably watched him at home. He didn't come to his fights. After he fought Manny Pacquiao, he was showing up. He was there at the Thurman fight. He was there at the Jesse Vargas fight. That motherfucker turned into a fan. And then before Manny retired and before he was beaten by Ugas, guess what Mayweather said? Mayweather said, to be honest with you, the hardest fighter I ever fought was Manny Pacquiao. Just the angles and the speed. Mayweather said that. Not me. Bobby Collins, salute Kurt. Yeah, I got you. He turned the referee against Margarito and begged the referee to stop the fight. True humanity, true legend, true icon. You know what, Danny, though? It was probably a good idea. Discernment is a mother sucker. When you get an intuition from wherever, if you believe in a higher power or whatnot, or God himself gives you like, hey, why don't you stop hitting this fucking guy, okay? Because he don't look right. That's what I think happened with Manny. And Manny was like, dude, I can't keep hitting this dude like that. He let him off the hook. Why? Because the dude, and then see, what we didn't know then, though, while the fight was on, we know Margarito was hurt. We know he was buckled. We know Manny probably could have just kept welling on him until they stopped it. But then what would have done if that guy's fucking caved eye socket shot back into his brain and killed him? That would have been devastating. Yes, Margarito cheated. But damn, did he deserve to die in the ring for it? I don't know. A lot of people would think a certain way. More than likely, probably not. But see, those deaths in the ring it's not a one-sided thing, people. If Manny Pacquiao would have kept hitting Margarito, welling on Margarito, punching with that type of velocity and speed against Margarito, He probably would have hurt and killed Margarito. And what would that have done to Margarito? Would be dead. His family would have mourned. A lot of people would have mourned. But what would it have done to the psyche of Manny? He probably wouldn't have fought again. So you have to really think about what. See, a lot of people, yeah, he should have kept hitting him. No, because he probably would have died or went into a coma and been like Pritchard Colon. God bless him. You know, Colon, was an undefeated fighter and got hit behind the head. Manny Pacquiao, pound for pound, top 15. Yeah, of all time. Not like the current shit, but from all time. Yeah. Adrian, people has been asking Blue Blood to change batteries on his fire alarm for almost 2 years. Man, we ain't got time for that shit. We working. That shit'll be all right. But no, I'll try to get it. Yeah, Chris Algieri, Karma. Thank you. Thank you. If you're still here, thank you. It was Chris Algieri. I couldn't remember his last name. But he took his O2. Back to that. So Manny took a lot of people's O's. They had to go. Rob Dog, absolute legend, Hall of Fame for sure. Definitely. Quincy L. Usyk versus Fury, Wilder, who you got? Quincy, let's talk about Manny. We're going to focus on Manny. We'll talk about that later in the week, right? Nobody wants Usyk versus Fury. That's boring. Well, I know you've been listening to Big Brother Roy Jones, and I could, this boy fight. All you casual fans, y'all gonna hate that. I'm gonna tell you, it's a really good fight. It's a good fight for hardcore fans. It's a good fight for us, but casual, it'd be boring. That ain't gonna be a good fight. I'm gonna tell you, because it's too technical. You got two technical guys in there. They're gonna do what they need to do. They're gonna be what they want to be, and then people gonna boo. But see, I know the difference between a real, true technical fight because there was two technicians in there. But I don't think the crowd is really ready for that. Yeah. American Patriot, counterpunch to you, brother. But no, you don't know how that fight will go. King Mike Hall. That's just Roy Jones's take on it. Floyd claimed in both their prime Manny was on roids. Olympic testing, but Floyd handpicked opponents, I believe. Okay, let me talk about that for a minute. He claimed that, and that was shitty of Floyd. Floyd shouldn't have done that, but that's what you do with rivals. But it's also something you do when you don't like the idea of somebody else getting praise. And I think that's what happened with Floyd. Floyd didn't like the idea that people compared Manny to him, right? He didn't like the idea that he didn't get the fighter of the decade. Manny did. Roy Jones Jr. got it in the 90s. Manny Pacquiao got it in the early 2000s. I don't know who the hell got it between 2011 to 2020. Right? I don't know. I don't even know if they still do it, but I don't know who had the fighter of the decade in the last 10 years. So, but Floyd kept retiring. He retired after the Ricky Hatton fight. He came back to the ring against Juan Manuel Marquez. But then it's like, yo, I'm the best. I'm the cash cow. I'm the creme de la creme. And then people are like, no, we got Manny now. So that was the problem. And Floyd didn't like that idea of it. And it didn't come from Floyd Jr. primarily. It came from Floyd Sr. Why? Because Floyd Sr. was training the hitman, Ricky Hatton. And Ricky Hatton was knocked out in 2 rounds. Bad. I saw it last week. Just to recap. Manny Pacquiao hit Ricky Hatton and knocked him out. And he was down on that floor probably as long as he was down on Manny was down on that floor against Juan Manuel Marquez. He knocked him out cold. Okay. And that's when Mayweather Sr. told his son, like, look, if you're going to fight Manny, make sure he takes a drug test. Fair enough. Nothing wrong with that. And then what happened? Floyd did that, but he went at it the wrong way. He started accusing Manny of taking roids because Manny didn't want to accept his type of drug test. So, people, I want you guys to understand something. All right, um, when if you offer the only professional drug test that you have is VADA. Okay. Now in the UK you have, UCAD and all that, right? BBBSC or whatever. But here you have VADA. Okay. And like is the voluntary anti-doping, drug association, right? That's what you have here. Floyd didn't offer that. Floyd offered you, he wanted Manny to take USADA, which was an Olympic style drug testing. And Manny was like, well, why are you wanting me to take something special that you're behind versus what people normally do? So you didn't want this man to take something that every other fighter normally takes. You wanted him to take something that amateurs take, which was kind of weird because after that, oh, he's a cheat. I know he's taking those Pac-Man pellets. I know he's taking them. He gonna take that test though before he fights me. That type of shit. But then Manny made it look shitty because he said, I'm afraid of needles. But to be honest with you, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and he has tattoos also. And he said, well, dude, no, wait a minute. That's the difference between getting a tattoo and getting inked up versus somebody sticking a needle in you. And that is two different things. I hate needles. I hate them. But I don't have tattoos, so there you go. So I don't like any of them either. So, Kevin Lopez, hey Kurt, thanks for the broadcast. Manny is one of the greatest in my book. It was sad we never saw Spence in there with him. No, Kevin, it's not sad. Spence is from another generation. Spence should stay in his own generation. Spence should fight someone that's credible now. How about one of the pound-for-pound best fighters in the world, Terrence Crawford? That's the fight that we wanted to see, not Manny. People wanted to fight Manny because Manny is from another era and he's a living legend. And most importantly, he was a living legend that was currently kicking ass in this generation. That's what made him so special. This ain't a Roy Jones. This ain't an Andre Ward. This ain't a Bernard Hopkins. This ain't even an Oscar De La Hoya. This was a guy that was still fighting, that's been around for over 2 decades and still able to kick ass. That is Manny Pacquiao, or should I say recently was Manny Pacquiao. I think everyone come here for the boxing, but stays for the accents. Floyd's been a fan. He was cheering for Manny in the Morales fight too. Okay. He might come back if he doesn't get elected president. You know what, Cosmon? That's a good guy. Hey, that might happen. I hope it doesn't. But who knows? You heard about Canelo refusing to piss for VADA 2 days ago? AJ can beat Usyk with adjustments. And Pac and many miles on the clock, and Spence snaps heads 90 punches around 40% accuracy. Well, Danny, look, it didn't supposed to happen. I'm glad it didn't happen. Now, for the sport, I would have promoted it, but deep down inside, that's bad for Manny because Manny is in his 40s. Errol Spence is a damn early 30. He has 10 years on Manny, or should I say, Manny has 10 years on him, which makes it worse, right? I think they safe AJ in the 12. Look at the corner of AJ, white towel. No, that was a close call though. Shut Roy or I'll send Joe Calzaghe. Brittany Galloway, appreciate you. Curse the main man. Thank you very much. Manny was a drug cheat. Boxing 1982. You can't prove that at all. You can't prove. There's nothing that showed that he was cheating. People can say he, she, or look. People said that shit about Manny Pacquiao. They said that about Mayweather. They say that shit about Anthony Joshua, the TUEs and all that shit. They say these things, but nothing has hit home. Now, for the unfortunate bastards that got caught, that's on y'all. I'm talking about Canelo, half-ass Oscar Valdez. Who else got caught cheating? All of them. Roy Jones was cheating. Yeah. Sugar Shane Mosley was cheating. Fernando Vargas was cheating. And I'm talking about taking drugs cheating. Jarrell Miller, of course. Well, Spence got to get his eye right. So, he might as well stay on the form and just, come out when after Terrence Crawford retires. Because I don't think that fight was that fight wasn't in the plans. I'm sorry. It wasn't. You're right, Kurt. No official proof came out of the time to stop. Nobody had to prove for any of that shit. That's why I don't understand that Fury shit stupid, because it's like, wait, I know Fury ain't perfect. I know Fury contradicts himself all the time. If you contradict yourself, you're a liar anyway. But don't mean he's lying about that particular thing. And don't mean that, like, if Wilder or Fury would have had something in their drugs, and I'm gonna say this real quick and get off of it, there would have been speculation for some of that. At least the drug part, the drugging of my water, or Tyson Fury having anything. If that would have happened, okay, you would have had a case. But everything leads down to I believe, I believe, I believe. There's no facts. You got a couple bullshit pictures, you know. You know what I mean? A screenshot after a punch been landed, and you got another punch, another whole nother glove from a whole nother fight. So that's what we're dealing with. AJ can't beat Usyk. He was actually trying in that last fight. It wasn't like AJ wasn't trying. I just think he needs to. I want to know what he does from now on. He didn't beat Usyk the other night. No. And he damn sure didn't let Usyk slide. Fury got custom gloves delivered for Wilder 3. Cheating again. Man, they watched that man put them gloves on boxing 1982. They watched that shit. They watched him, man. They watched him put those gloves on. And in fact, in about 3 minutes, I'm going to jump off of here, but I want to cover Manny. But I have a lot to counterpunch on that. So stay tuned, boxing 1982. They watched a man put the wraps and gloves on. So shit, But back to Manny. Man, Manny Pacquiao, I'm glad that he is retiring. I hope that his health is well. I hope that he makes his presidency, because I forget who said it on here. You guys know who you are. Is that at the end of the day, if he doesn't get the presidency, Manny Pacquiao might bring his happy ass back to the sport of boxing, which I don't want to see. I don't want to see him come up. I don't want to see him do any of that shit at all. Yeah, Damon R. Yeah, that's what I'm going to counterpunch on the Malik Scott interview, and the shit was very interesting. Yeah, man, I probably jet lag, man. I've been flying, so I had last few days. Kim D'Ambrosis, I want Usyk versus Fury. That's a good one. I would like that too. Get you some Wendy's. Yeah, I had some Wendy's yesterday, actually, before I left Kansas City. Manny lives in my basement. He is doing box rec study for me. Okay. Juice to get through so many divisions. They are a bit better than that, at least as championship side. What if Wilder throws Malik under the bus like Breland? Mario, there won't be no room for that. I don't think Deontay Wilder would do that because there's no room to do that. If Wilder loses to Fury and he throws Malik under the bus, everybody half of the, I predict unless the LDBC are just if they're just cocksuckers and they don't see that, he's gonna because people and I'm guarantee you some people are gonna be like, yo, we've seen this before. We've seen how he did Breland. It won't be room for that. It's not even. I don't think Wilder would do that anyway. I don't think he will make up something about Malik Scott. I think at that point he will understand like, hey, he lost. He might try to talk about how the cheating affected him and shit like that. But I expect that coming, but I won't expect him to throw Malik Scott under the bus. And then if he does, people will see that and they will call it immediately. And then he would just be he would be shamed for it because people are going to remember like, dude, you did this shit last time you got beat last year. You got beat up. It was everybody's fault except yours. Except that dude was welling. You forgot. You duck. Duck, you sucker. He's throwing a punch at you. Get up under that punch or something. Don't just put your arms up because he's punching through the gloves and he's punching around the gloves and he's hitting you in the face. So, no, I don't think that'll happen. I don't think Wilder would do that. I think he has better chemistry and with Malik Scott and JD's. You see, JD's is still there because he had better chemistry with him. And the black and pro-black shit, it's all bullshit. Because if that was the case, how does he have a better connection with a white guy versus a black guy? Come on. See, I don't think Wilder stands for all that shit. I think it made him pissed off about Tyson Fury talking about the gypsies and how gypsies or travelers get discriminated. And he didn't want to hear that shit over here because over here we had our own problems. That's what made Wilder mad. It ain't the fact that he's just this quote-unquote pro-black dude. It ain't that. It's the fact that he got pissed because he didn't like the idea of someone else bringing more steam and more attention to themselves than him. That's what happened. Kurt, who do you think wins Joshua in a rematch, all honestly? I think Joshua can improve. But then again, if what Usyk said is right, Brandon, and he's like, I can fight different and I can adjust, and I believe Usyk can adjust on the day he can adjust. The one coach who wasn't pushing him enough. I don't think nobody was pushing him. They were paid not to push him. That's all. So eventually he was going to lose, and he lost. There's no big deal, man. It's all right. He's training like the Dickens right now. But anyway, back to Pacquiao. I'm glad Pacquiao ended his last fights with Freddie Roach. I remember when they did split up after the Jeff Horn fight. I was kind of worried because then all he had was Boo Boy, which he's a good friend, but he's not a trainer. So at least the original crew was together in his last fight, Jeff Fortune, Freddie Roach. I will say this about Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao, when it was Freddie Roach and Michael Moore, I think Manny Pacquiao was the best because Michael Moore was this southpaw himself and he knew angles, he knew combinations, and I think he was good at training. Okay. Even Wilder and his fans were against AJ's speech during Black Lives Matter, yet they claim they're pro-black. I am _Dave. I don't think all of them. I don't know. I don't know about Wilder, though. I never heard Wilder say anything derogatory against AJ as regards to the Black Lives Matter speech. Usyk is the surgeon, doctor, technician, the cable guy, the phone repair guy. Of course, he can adapt to anything Joshua can. Okay. Manny Pacquiao in 26 years has showed sheer service. He showed excitement. He gave us great fights. He gave us great knockouts. And I will always thank Manny Pacquiao for it. But guess what? Media never dies. So we will be able to see Manny Pacquiao anytime we want. Okay. um, anytime we want, just by turning on YouTube, the Zone, or wherever, to see what Manny Pacquiao uh, gave us, what he gave us as a fighter. We're able to see that, and that's absolutely wonderful. Okay, and I'm glad that he didn't get knocked out viciously again, because that's for one, it's dangerous. For two, it's embarrassing, and for three, it's not necessary because Manny Pacquiao doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. Okay, he made his legacy a long time ago. Okay, and he kept winning and he kept fighting and he kept doing this to people that other people thought wouldn't, he couldn't do that to. So again, shout out to Manny Pacquiao. Let's see what we have. Do you think Manny Pacquiao will ever do exhibition fights like Mayweather? Probably not. But then again, if he misses it that much, I think that would be the best alternative. What's slurring? I think it will be the alternative. Kurt, if the AJ that put out dude in the first 20 fights had showed up, who do you think would have won? Brandon, I don't know. I mean, if with that he was either gonna knock Usyk out or not. But I'll tell you, if he would have knocked him out, he would have knocked him out. But if he didn't knock out Usyk, Usyk would have ate him alive because he would have been then tired because he's gassed. Matthew Branch kind of punched to you. Fury kept it simple when commenting on AJ loss to Usyk. How do you best win a fight? Hit your opponent more than he hits you. That's true. Maybe Joshua wasn't able to fight aggressively because he missed too many punches. He threw out his hand and immediately received a counter, and therefore was disembobulated. I wanted to see Manny versus Floyd too. Yeah, we did, but you know what? At least we got the first one. At least we got the first one. And Manny's a true legend. I'm glad he didn't take a beating like he could have with these other fighters. These are like Terrence Crawford and Manny Pacquiao. You know, even Manny's really good as he is, I wouldn't want to see him knocked out. But again, he helps his country. He wants to prepare for his country. And I'm glad that he actually took this step to retirement. Okay, because this is exactly what he needs in his new stage in his career. Politics. But anyway, guys, I thank you guys for coming on. I'm wrapping up this live stream. You guys tell me what you think of Manny Pacquiao's retirement. Of course, please subscribe. And everybody on the chat, everyone has been Counterpunched. Peace.